pursuit of continuous quality education.
Living up to DepEd's mandate of no student should be left behind.
From the home of Sarongbangi,
The land of Oragons. This is Santo Domingo National High School. School on Air.
School on Air.
Hello, grade 10 students. A blessed Monday afternoon to everyone. I'm so grateful to be with you today in our School on the Air in Mapeh 10. This is teacher Nemia Garcia, warmly welcoming you all in our first episode in Exploring Music. I hope you will enjoy our journey as we learn and encounter new experience in music. And for you to finally attend to our lesson today, you may find a convenient place where you can comfortably listen to, far from any disturbances, and with a clear reception, as you may clearly understand what I am saying. I'll give you 1 minute to prepare yourself. You can get your learning activity sheet too, a pen and a clean sheet of paper or notebook where you can write down notes of some facts or details in our discussion today. Are you ready now? Do you have your activity sheet with you? Are your pens and notebooks ready? If you do, let's go and together explore the zero experiments of 20th century music. In the history of music and arts, every period has its characteristic style that describes the society from which it originated. The period between the 19th and 20th centuries perceived the two world wars and had been a period of many changes. These include advancements in technology, many inventions like the telephone, television, electronic light, computers, cassette tapes, synthesizers, CD players, and many more. And because of these inventions, there are a lot of experiments in music and arts were made. Today, we will be exploring music of the 20th century. I will help you understand more the different genres of music, their distinctive characteristics and performance practice of 20th century music. The creation of diverse musical styles around the turn of the 20th century mark a break from the traditions of earlier classical music, Impressionism, Expressionism, Neoclassicism, avant-garde music, and contemporary nationalism are among the emerging genres. Individual composers including Claude Debussy, Maurice Ravel, Arnold Schoenberg, Bela Bartok, Igor Stravinsky, Sergei Prokofiev, and George Gershwin stands out as the driving forces behind the innovative and experimental musical forms mentioned above. These composers hailing from varied countries including France, Austria, Hungary, Russia and the United States highlighted the expanding globalization of musical styles in the 20th century. In Learning Activity Sheet 1, you have met different exponent or leading composers of the period and are acquainted with their well-known compositions. The distinct musical styles of the 20th century would not have developed if not for them. This time, we will listen again to some of their musical work and describe its distinctive musical elements. Let's listen to this timeless musical composition of the 20th century. Do you know the title of that composition and who composed it? Well, I hope you've got it. Yes, it's Clair de Lune by Claude Debussy. Have you got it right? Debussy was the primary exponent of Impressionism music. Along with him is Maurice Ravel, and Ravel was known for his bolero. Now, let's talk about how Impressionism is distinct. Impressionism in music is a movement in Western classical music that concentrates on mood and atmosphere rather than a detailed tone picture by giving suggestion, conveying the moods and emotions generated by the subject. It involved new chord combinations, ambiguous tonality, meaning key is not clear, extended harmonies, use of modes and exotic scales, parallel note motions, extra musicality, and evocative titles. And that's because of the new system on musical composition introduced by Claude Debussy, the whole tone scale. Whole tone scale is a scale consisting entirely of intervals of a tone with no semitones, known also as six-tone equal temperament. It has 6 different tones with equal intervals with no half-step intervals. Unlike diatonic scale, which is the traditional system used in music composition, it consists of 7 pitches or tones per octave and with a combination of whole and semitone or half step. Remember the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do? That's a diatonic scale and the traditional system in making music. Let's come now to the next movement in 20th century music, the Expressionism. According to Theodore Adorno, Expressionism music aims to remove all the traditional music standard features. This movement is known for its high level of dissonance, atonal, severe dynamics contrasts, continuous texture changes, distorted melodies and harmonies. If Impressionist Debussy introduced the whole tone scale, Schoenberg introduces the 12-tone scale, and 12-tone scale produces dissonance, which is categorized of simultaneous or successive sounds with clashing melodies that produces harshness and unpleasantness. Let's listen to one of the famous compositions of a well-known expressionist, Arnold Schoenberg.
Eine Springflut überschwemmt den stillen Horizont. Den man mit Augen trinkt, der Dichter, den die Ahnung treibt und rauscht sich an den Heilkranker. Hinten zuckt das Haupt. Taumel saugt und schlürft dir den Wein, den man mit Augen trinkt.
You see? Do you feel the difference between Impressionism and Expressionism in terms of its musicality? Can you name the title of that music? I hope you remember it. It's Pierrot Lunaire of Arnold Schoenberg. If you notice, as you listen to this piece, we can never feel its melodic key, and that is now what we call atonality or the dissonances. Another 20th music is the primitivism. Primitivism is a new sound that is synthesized from old ones by juxtaposing. Juxtaposing is a combination or fusion of two different materials or items from varied civilization, maybe the instrument used. It has links to exoticism through the use of materials from other cultures. An example of this is nationalism and ethnicism. Nationalism uses indigenous materials, whereas ethnicism is the use of materials from European ethnic groups. The two well-known proponents of this style were Igor Stravinsky and Bela Bartok. Now, let's listen to one of their work. Alright, we've just listened to Igor Stravinsky's work entitled Petrushka. Richard Taruskin, an American musicologist and music critic and the leading and most prominent music historian of his generation, locates the source of various of Stravinsky's most distinctive harmonic and tonal practices in a predisposition towards symmetrical partitions of the octave, most frequently including the usage of the octatomic scale, another form of scale, in this article. Richard Taruskin illustrates how Stravinsky acquired his modernist method by blending traditionally Russian in his musical training with stylistic characteristics abstracted from folklore in his music, harmony, and tonality. Okay, let's move on to another 20th century music style, the neoclassicism. Neoclassicism in music was a 20th century trend in which composers tried to return to aesthetic precepts connected with the generally defined term of classicism, including order, balance, clarity, economy, and emotional restraint. It was popular during the interwar period. It is a moderating factor between the emotional excesses of the Romantic period and the violent impulses of the soul in Expressionism. Here's an example of neoclassical music. Let's listen to it and notice the fusion of classical and modern touches of music. Here's the concert trumpeter of France, Francis Poulenc. Yes, we are now on the fifth musical style of the 20th century. I hope you are still there, alive and eager to come with me throughout our journey. Let's come now to the last style, the avant-garde music. Avant-garde music is associated with electronic music and dealt with the parameters or dimensions of sound in space. It made use of variations of self-contained note groups to change musical continuity and improvisation with an absence of traditional rules on harmony, melody, and rhythm. Let's listen to this example. All right. Can you tell the composer and the title of the music you heard? Yes, it's the West Side Story of Leonard Bernstein. Along with him were George Gershwin and Philip Glass. The unconventional methods of sound and form, as well as the absence of traditional rules governing harmony, melody, and rhythm, make the whole concept of avant-garde music. This time, Can you name again the 5 musical styles that evolved in the modern era? Let's cite it again. All together now, we have Impressionism, Expressionism, Primitivism, Neoclassicism, and avant-garde music. I hope our discussion and the composition we listen to help you identify the difference of the varied musical style of the 20th century in terms of its musicality. Now, take a look of Activity 1 of Learning Activity Sheet 2. Instead of making 3 paragraphs discussing how music changed in the 20th century, just do Activity 1 found in the additional activity sheet provided for you. Consider the questions given to each item as your guide. Now, to help you answer Activity 1 of last 2, here are the details about the performance practice of the 20th century music. How did music change in the 20th century? Changes are visible. It is evident in setting, composition, performers, and audiences. Before the invention of mass-market gramophone records, which is developed in 1892, and radio broadcasting, which is first commercially done on 1919 and 1920, people usually listen to music at live classical music concerts or musical theater shows. Informally, music can be heard in halls, taverns, and fair. The ability to read music or play particular instruments and classical styles of music tended to be limited to middle class and upper class individuals, while singing and performing folk music and work songs were mainly limited to working class people. Another change that occurs in this era is the availability of all types of music to varied audiences. The range of music available to individuals increased dramatically during the 20th century. Listeners could purchase recordings of or listen to recordings or live broadcasts of a great range of songs and musical pieces globally. And that's because of the widespread availability of gramophone, records, and radio transmissions. Classical and popular music like symphonies, operas, and folk music are made available to all. It's now time for you to work on your activities. I hope that our on-air instruction helps you in performing the task. If you need more information about our topic, you may click the link provided for you in our GC for more lessons on our Google Drive. To sum up our lesson today, 20th century music is innovative and experimental styles that evolved in the modern era come in youths. Some of these were short-lived, experimental, and too radical. Others found an active blend between the old and new, providing new touch in music. That's all for now. I hope you enjoy our journey in exploring 20th century music. Please be reminded of your outputs to submit it on Thursday. Before ending this up, allow me to quote the saying from an expert musician, Igor Stravinsky. He says, "Look for the music in all things, and life will be a symphony of joy." The Proverbs of Solomon says, "A merry heart doeth good like medicine, and makes one's countenance cheerful." So, love music. This is Teacher Nems, waving farewell to you all. God bless everyone.